Hello everyone. In this video, I'd like to do a quick walkthrough of the key differences and improvements of the current Hasselblad CFV 100C versus the older version CFV 250C, both on the same camera body 907X. I have been using the 50C for quite a while, and then I switched to 100C after its launch. And through a couple months of using 100C, I found it has a lot of improvement that Hasselblad has made available to this camera versus the old one. Some of them are quite obvious and also mentioned by Hasselblad official website, but there are also some improvements. It's not commonly mentioned or seen on internet, and I feel like I like to bring them up. Number one, it has a 100 megapixel sensor with higher density of pixels, and that obviously is an improvement if you need more resolution. But because the higher density, the pixel is going to be smaller. So the older one of in the 50 megapixel is 5.3 micron. The newer one is 3.76 micron. Normally that would mean you would have a little bit less full well capability, which translate to a little bit less of dynamic range. And sometimes you also get less single to noise ratio by just reducing the size of a pixel. But because this new 100 megapixel sensor has BSI, which is called backside illumination technology, it actually has a way better quantum efficiency in this new sensor compared to the older one, which doesn't have the BSI. And the end result, the image quality when you zoom in this one to 100% is almost on par with the 50C on 100% scale, even if you boost the low light portion to 2 or 3 stops more. You still see this 100 megapixel does hold up very well. Number two, the lowest ISO setting on this new camera is 64, while the older one is 100. And that would mean you would have a little bit better dynamic range in this new sensor or camera combination. Number three, it has a face detection autofocus, while the older one doesn't have that because that comes within the new CMOS sensor, and it will make the autofocus faster. Honestly, I don't use autofocus lens that from Hasselblad very often. I like to use manual lens instead. But it would show some benefit if you're using the XCD lenses. Number four, it has face detection. So it would actually, in the autofocus, you can actually turn it on to focus on track focus of a human face, which is a very nice add-on feature. Number five, it has a new file format called HEIF. I don't use it. I use like RAW 100% time, but I think it's going to be beneficial for people who like to have more information compared to JPEG in the picture. Number six, it has an internal 1 terabyte SSD and also have a backup of CF Express card slot here. The older one has 2 SD card slots but doesn't have internal storage, and the newer one does save some money in terms of you can opt to not to purchase an extra memory card. Number seven, it comes standard with a hot shoe adapter, so it's easier to be used with flash photography, while the older one doesn't have it. Number eight, it has removed all the video recording functions. To me, it's probably a good simplification to have because I don't really do video recording in this camera at all. Number nine, it has an 80 gram weight reduction, which is actually reduced from 540 grams of the older one to this 460 gram without lens and batteries. That's a huge reduction in terms of percentage, almost 1/6 of the total weight. Now I'd also like to mention several not commonly mentioned upgrades, which I like a lot from usage. Number one is from the screen. The screen is the same screen 3.2 inch diagonal, but it has metal buttons while the older 50C has full rubber buttons with black paint, and that black paint came off very easily from frequent use. Number 2, the power button is recessed, so it's actually in flash with the surface of the screen. So the probability of touching it by mistake is going to be reduced compared to the older version. And number 3, the shutter button of this new 907X come with this 100C has a better feel, I would say. It has a very clear 2-stage button feeling. Very soft first stage to wake up the camera or to start autofocus, and then the very crisp second stage to take a photo. The older one feels almost like a single stage shutter that I almost always mishit or misfire the shutter when I'm trying to wake up the camera. I don't really like that feel. Number 4, it has added the live view as a default screen when you're doing, it added a histogram in the live view, which is very, very helpful for a lot of occasions you want an accurate exposure. And then number 5, it has added an option in the quality setting of the camera here. It has the second row called bit depths. It actually would change the color depths recorded in the file. By default, or in the older version, it's always 16-bit. And the 14-bit option actually enables the camera to capture the image and save the image to the storage faster. And it has twofold of improvement to my understanding. The first one, it has a faster continuous capture speed. The older one, or the 16-bit case, you get 2.7 FPS speed. Well, if you change it to 14-bit, you will reach to around 3.3 FPS. Not a lot, but it's better than the older one for sure. Second fold is with 14 bits depth of color, the sensor's readout speed is faster, and as a result, the rolling effect of the electronic shutter is reduced by a lot. From my own test, when I'm shooting at 16-bit, the rolling shutter is equivalent to around 1/3 or 1/4 of a second of a mechanical rolling shutter, which is really poor and will distort human or basically any moving target when that target is moving quick. And if I change it to color depth of 14 bits, the rolling shutter speed is equivalent to around 1/15 of a second. Still kind of slow rolling, but again, from daily use with electronic shutter and manual lens, I found this 14 bit is able to catch up with most of these target in motion cases, like kids are walking, running slowly. That's still capable of capturing them without distortion. Number 6, the focus peaking function in this new camera is also improved. It has the focus peaking for manual focus assistant. Older and the new version both have it, but the difference is the newer focus peaking in this new camera is actually less sensitive, or I would say it's the threshold of focus peaking is higher. And as a result, when I'm trying to do this manual focus, it will only show at the very high contrast and in focus area with the focus peaking color. While in the older one, because of low sensitivity, a lot of high contrast feature before they actually reach focus will already show that peaking color. And in the environment like deep wood, a lot of trees in the background, those high contrast images would have a lot of colored focus peak color in the entire screen, and that's very distracting. Number 7, the dial around the shutter button has improvement functionality. In the older camera, if I'm using or touching a manual lens, when I no longer have the control from the camera body of the aperture opening, the dial would be no function until I hit the secondary function button, and then I can change the exposure compensation. In the new camera, when it detects the lens doesn't have any electronic contacts or it doesn't control the aperture, the default function of this dial becomes the exposure compensation, which become very helpful for me when I'm using this manual lens as daily carry lens. I no longer need to hit this second function button quite often when I'm using aperture priority mode. So that's all the improvements I've found being useful or helpful compared to the older model. And thanks for watching this video. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to comment underneath. Thank you.